Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining Elizabeth and Jeff Beaudre for Tipple's Brews and Wines in Gainesville, Florida, for the virtual Wine of the Week tasting this week. We're going to be visiting for the first time New York State.
Oh, that's right. I
That's
forgot that
right.
you were doing that.
The Finger Lakes. Going to the Finger Lakes. I've been looking for a while now to find a winery worthy that also had the price points that were appropriate.
Right, because I remember you mentioning before that the problem with New York was that they had wineries that were good,
Yeah.
but it was so expensive.
Right, the really small production can cause big
small
price
production.
points.
I was just
Right.
going to ask you why, because like it's domestic. It should
Right.
be a lot easier than getting wines from Italy or France or
Right. Yeah, it's
Australia.
right. They're small wineries,
Mhm.
so they end up having, these very kind of these larger price tags. So they don't have the economies of scale.
Yeah,
And
that makes
especially,
sense.
distributing is expensive as well.
Mhm.
Everyone needs to make some money or it won't come down here.
Yeah, true.
So because of that, it's been a hard give and take. But we'll talk about why this all lined up and why we finally found the right guys to join in.
Okay.
So
I was just looking at the whole label because it was turned. So
okay. So if you will pull up the first slide, please.
okay.
All right. So here we are. The Hermann J. Wiemer Cabernet Franc from the Finger Lakes, AVA, American Viticultural Area,
Okay.
in New York State. I was like, New York City. I keep
Right.
thinking that from, I'm a child of the 80s,
Yeah.
but not so much the city, but the state, right? Solid, really nice ratings. James Suckley 91, Wine and Spirits Magazine 91 on this guy. Food pairings, it's a Cabernet Franc. They're very versatile.
Okay.
It kind of likes meat pairings with spice or herbs.
Okay.
Is a really great combo.
All right. Yeah, that's what I was looking at with the meatballs, that you don't often see like Italian things with haggis in the same,
Right. Yeah.
suggestions for food pairings.
That was me going out.
Okay, what's the common denominator between these things?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
obviously these are not the only things they go with. They're fun things
Okay.
because I do this every week. I like to get a little creative.
Mhm.
Obviously this will go well with a steak with a little rosemary, that kind of a thing. But
Yeah.
that's right. Meatballs and tomato sauce, that's pretty common.
Mhm.
There we go. Grilled artichokes, like to go the vegetarian style.
Yeah.
Haggis because it was fun.
You can have that alone if you're having that.
And rosemary lamb sliders. I really do want that. That
Okay.
would be great.
You would be having that one alone too, but
So the ideal serving temperature in this wine is basically room temperature. What I like to do with my red wines is I like to take them down to European cellar temperature, which is 55 to 60 degrees,
Mhm.
and then open them up. They will warm up to the room as we're drinking it. It's not necessary. It's just something I like to do.
okay.
So,
I just noticed something that ours is a 2020.
yes.
The images that we use aren't always the same as the actual bottle that you get, because it's what we can pull off the internet,
Right.
and they don't take a new picture every year. So
That's true.
sometimes your labels will look different.
Put case in point on this, on the Wiemer website,
Mhm.
they're using the 2016 bottle, even on their
okay.
own website. So, and I couldn't clip that one out.
Okay.
So anyway, how do I chill this guy down to cellar temperatures? A red wine, 30 minutes in your refrigerator is a great way to go.
Thank you.
If it's a wine that needs to take a breath and open a little before you drink it, open it, leave it open, put it in your refrigerator for 30 minutes. It's a great trick to get wine that's a little more ready to drink right away. And it'll get a 30-minute head start. And then give it a good hard pour. Bubbles are good when you're pouring a red wine because it's starting to aerate right away. Right.
Mhm.
Not always necessary. There's plenty of casual drinking red wine out there that doesn't need any of this, but the ones that we're grabbing for the wine of the week generally need at least a little breath.
So I'm feeling little prickles. Are those does that mean it's smaller tannins?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it does.
All right.
Right. So that's on your first sip, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So let's stop the share. We'll go through some of the additional information I'll give about the wine, and then we'll talk about what we're smelling and tasting and
Okay.
the texture.
Sorry for jumping the gun.
That's all right. Fair enough. Varietal content on this guy. It is 100% Cabernet Franc. It's not a blend. Alcohol content, 13%.
Oh, That's surprising.
right?
Yeah.
So
It's got to be one of our lower ABVs for
it
red.
is one of the lower ABVs for red.
Okay.
That would indicate a cooler climate.
Okay.
All right, so this is in New York.
Mhm.
It's well up north. It's below the Great Lakes. It gets a lot of coolness, which is good. So it allows it to ripen slowly,
Mhm.
little lower ripening level. So you get a little less alcohol, right? So aging potential on this guy, because there's one thing. So
Mhm.
a little lower in alcohol, that will lower the aging potential.
Okay.
You talked about tannins, right? So
Mhm.
we've got our first sip. Take a sip. How much is it gripping your tongue? Is it really rough, or is it kind of gently giving a little texture?
So I feel like it's gentle prickles. Like it's a lot of prickles to me, but I
Good
don't feel like
prickles,
it's
yeah.
grabbing
Right.
me.
And that is a great way to
It's not
describe.
making me pucker.
Right. It's a prickliness.
Mhm.
It's a bit of a drying across the palate. So those
Mhm.
are the tannins. But it's modest, right? So I give it a medium tannin.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we're talking about a little low in the alcohol,
Mhm.
a medium tannin, the acidity, how much tartness is in this wine.
Mhm.
So take another sip, think about tartness and kind of chew the wine. That's one of our terms. Roll it around your palate, let it really get a moment to have contact with your tongue. So I'd say for a red wine, medium plus on
That's
the
what I
acid.
was gonna say.
Mhm. You did so. So medium plus on the
I
acid.
was like, it's like medium high to me. I wonder what Jeff is going
Sorry.
to say.
So you put that together, you've got a little low on the alcohol,
Mhm.
right? It's not low, but it's, for reds, it's a little lower.
Mhm.
It's on the bottom of the scale.
Mhm.
Medium tannin,
Mhm.
medium plus on the acid.
Mhm.
So you're dealing with a lot of mediums.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a wine that is ready to drink now
Mhm.
and probably 5 to 7 years on the aging. So we're
Okay.
not talking about a 10 to 15 year guy.
Okay.
Don't forget it in the back of your wine storage. Keep it top of mind. It can go for a couple of years, but it's also ready to go right
Okay.
now. Mhm. Does it have character though? I would say yes, right? There's a
Mhm.
lot that we get to talk about in a few minutes on there. What made this wine? So this one is a combination of stainless steel fermentation and oak fermentation. And that's stainless
kind
steel
of oak?
side.
Jeff, can I interrupt for a second? Sorry.
Sure,
What was it that you told us to makes this wine would be 5 to 7 versus this wine would be 10 plus years that you can age it? Like what characteristic about the wine is that?
the three main characteristics are alcohol content. So in that case, you want to go the higher, the longer it can last, right? Tannins, so how rough and prickly that is. And then acidity. Acidity is number 3. So the tartness level of it. And there are some wines that'll go into a bottle, and if you drink them young, they're so acidic, they're not even enjoyable. And they literally need to lie down for 10 to 15 years
Oh,
before
yeah.
you even want to touch them. That tends to be a good example of that is Northern Italy,
Mhm.
in the Barolo region. So if you can get a young Barolo is highly tannic, highly acidic,
Mhm.
medium on the alcohol, right?
Okay.
But those things can age 20, 30 years.
Okay.
So that's an extreme example,
Right.
right? So, and then an extreme example, the other way is if you have your average, say $12 supermarket red blend from California, right?
Mhm.
Which once again, I'm just saying it is what it is, right?
Mhm.
It'll be low acid, it'll be low tannin, it'll probably be higher in alcohol because they go with riper grapes. It gets fruitier content.
Okay.
But that is going to be extremely low. That's only going to be 3 to 5 years in aging.
Okay.
So this guy, I've got a little more than that, 5 to 7, 5 to 8
Mhm.
years in aging.
Okay.
So, all right. Great question though, Jen, because I do kind of run through them when I've done them in other weeks. And I don't want to jump over things like that are important considerations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yep. And by the way, J&J have already rated that they are fans of this one. So
Huh? Gotta love it. That's pretty. Okay, so we've kind of covered that. They don't say which oak they use for aging the 50% that is oak aged. They just say 50% neutrally oaked.
Did you remember that I asked that? Or
Yes.
did you? Oh,
Yes.
Wow.
I jumped back and came back. I
I-
zigged and I zagged.
I didn't know if it was just like something you were mentioning or if you actually remembered something I asked you.
I would guess because neutral oak tends to be French oak.
Mhm,
I would guess French oak, right?
mhm.
But it doesn't say. So- All right, so let's jump down to, we don't need to go to the slides yet. Now we're going to go through scent, taste, and texture on our observations. All right, so give it a good sniff, give it another fresh sip. I'll
Yep.
kind of go through some of what I'm, I'll break the ice, and then what, you guys tell me, A, if you disagree with me or not, and B, if you have any other observations, because I'm open to it.
And remember, you can use the chat, you can take the mic, you can raise your hand. It's however, we have a small enough
Right.
group that you don't have to raise your hand, but if you would like to, you can do that too.
Right. So, fruit wise, really nice fruit, raspberry plum, I'm
Mhm.
going, because we got that tartness on it,
Mhm.
that fresh fruit.
Mhm.
So more of red fruits rather than black. I'm not getting blackberries. I'm not getting blueberries.
Yeah,
It's more, like I said, raspberry and plum, but there's this herbal fresh thing.
yeah, there's definitely an herbal.
It's a bit of I like to think of it as a green peppercorn.
Okay, and we have green pepper in the chat from Chris.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. There we go.
Jeff does not read the chat normally, so he wasn't just like
That's right.
taking that.
I took Chris's answer and made it my own. I'm just saying. Hmm. And I would say there's a floral note on here. It's a little different because Cab Franc can be very roses driven. I wouldn't say this one is roses driven,
Yeah, I wouldn't say roses.
but it
I'm
is
giving
kind of a flowery,
floral.
kind of a floral note, right?
Yes, not roses though.
Cranberry, I like the call. So Linda says cranberry, absolutely, because we're talking about those tart red fruits.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, and then we say, Chris also said maybe some black cherry in there.
Yeah, and I would say, all right, on the palate and as it opens up,
Mhm.
it will get a little bit more berryish,
Okay.
right? So when it's fresh and young, you're going to get a lot more of that kind of plum, raspberry, cranberry,
Mhm,
and especially on the nose. But sipping on it, you'll get those qualities,
mhm.
but you'll start to get black cherry building in.
Okay. And also for the floral note, maybe lavender.
I like lavender. I like that color. Yeah, I was kind of reaching for it, and that shows like I don't just write it all down and go by the book. I was reaching and I couldn't quite pin it, but yes, lavender. All right, now I'm all right. How about this one? Cedar. Right?
You do cedar.
Mm-hmm. And I would go a little bit of coffee bean on that guy. When you go on the darker side, and it's almost not even quite like a dark roast coffee. It's more like a coffee bean. But because it's not quite earthy, it's a little more lively. It's a little more, plant-like than that. Then
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it earth, but coffee grounds kind of get earthy,
Okay.
but they're still not earth.
Sure. Yep. And then
like
Kristen
that.
Robin did say, oh, you looked at the chat?
Yeah.
It said theirs has been open for 45 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So they're a little ahead of us.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
and this
and
one
they're
doesn't.
and they're saying that for them the flavors of coffee and cherry are very intertwined. So
Oh, I like that. That's
Mhm.
great. And this one doesn't require to take a long breath. You can
Okay.
enjoy it all the way throughout.
okay.
And it's going to hit a wall. Like it's only going to open so much. It's not going to be a 2 to 3 hour open,
Mhm.
but it will open more. And so I love wines that you can kind of travel with as
Sure.
you go through it. Excellent. I love that opening round.
Okay. And then Harriet said, Jerry, we disagree, but I smelled and tasted none of these things. I actually think our bottle is off. Huh? Really? Very vinegary to you? Yeah, no, I'm not getting vinegary at all.
No, I'm thinking you might have an off bottle. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't drink it. I gave him mine. I couldn't smell anything. I got no fruit. I got no nothing. I mean, I know, Jerry, you may disagree with me, but I got none of these things. So
Jerry was shaking his head before. I don't know what
I
it is.
know,
Yeah.
but I just don't think that, I don't know. Maybe I just don't have the palate for this wine.
Huh.
Well, Cab
Well, that
Franc.
explains it once again why Jen and I are the odd man out. But so We had this, it doesn't even really matter the brand. I don't know why I'm showing this, but this habanero cheese goes really good with it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why, but you probably
With
do.
No, no.
with
you
the
said
spices in it?
Habanero,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, that is a great pairing because those pepperiness, because there's a pepperiness to Cab Franc.
Mhm.
So it's, and then you got the creaminess to go with the other attributes of Cab Franc. And so boom, that's a great pairing with this because spicier and herbal, pairings are really great for Cab Franc. That's where it shines.
Mm.
Like I could even see, like I've seen vegetarian enchiladas and things that,
Oh, yeah.
that you could actually go with, with Cab.
Mhm.
Cab Franc's in very versatile red. All right, let's see, let's jump back over to slides.
Okay,
We'll start talking a little more about this. Thank you very much.
next.
Next one. All right, this is the part where I like to run real quick. The wine label review, the point of this is to be, if you are in a store and you're not in an awesome store like Tipple's where you can just ask one of us, and they leave you on your own, what attributes, what would I do as someone in the industry if I'm just traveling, not getting any help and picking up a wine that I've never seen before? What would I look for in the wine, right? So I'm taking a quick look on the front. All right, so we've got the name of the vineyard, established 79. Okay, great. Very nice, been around a while.
Yeah.
Cab Franc, very easy to see which varietal. So if you know what Cab Franc's going to give you, that is kind of a nice, easy in. 2020, so on the, it's 2 years old. That's about what I like to see on reds is 2 years or longer in,
Okay.
in a sense, the vintage. Finger Lakes and Seneca Lake AVA. So it's the Finger Lakes region. It's also a sub-region, the Seneca Lake. So the more specificity I see on a label from where it's coming from, almost always translates into direct pride-driven interaction from the winemaker rather
Well-
than just kind of in general,
I will say too, the thing is, you're talking about choosing this blindly by yourself.
Right.
So like, I think we talked maybe last week, maybe it was the week before, I think it was last week that we talked about that it was a collaboration between these different winemakers.
Right.
And so there wasn't specificity.
Right.
So if I were going blindly into it, I wouldn't pick that one. That one, we really need someone who's educated advising you.
Right.
Whereas a label that is very specific,
Right.
then you can have more confidence on your own getting it.
Right,
Yeah.
I agree 100%. And that, yes, you bring up a good point,
Yeah.
which is a lack of specificity doesn't mean don't drink it, but it can mean that you don't have enough information on your own.
Mhm.
And for example, like that wine
Mhm.
is something that needs us at the store to let people know this is why it looks this way,
Mhm.
and this is what's still interesting about this wine, so you can try and match it up to
Right.
people, right?
Right.
So this guy, on the other hand, if you're looking for a Cabernet Franc,
Mhm.
and especially if you're intrigued by the Finger Lakes,
Mhm.
so immediately you're on the right track, right? So we get on the back, they give a nice little history, quick little history of the Wiemer vineyards. We're going to be going over that anyway, so I'm just going to skip on through that. Down here, what I would look to, it says produced and bottled by the Hermann Wiener J Vineyard. So this is not a purchased item that they slap their label on.
Right.
They are making this wine, and once again, it's from Seneca Lake and all that. You've got the alcohol on there. So that would be the thing that was most important to me. So they get
Mhm.
very specific about where it's
Mhm.
from. They are specific that they made this wine. What would excite me about this is I'm going to get a real taste of this location and this winemaker's
Oh, sure.
vision, right?
Sure.
So there
So,
we go.
and if you're new to wine,
Mhm.
some people may see Cabernet and think, oh, a cab, but it's not Cabernet Sauvignon. It's a milder.
Cabernet Franc is not
Right.
as
Yeah.
robust
Yeah.
as Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah.
But it is a related story.
It
which
is.
We're
Oh,
about
are
to get
we
into.
going to come to it?
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right. Should I advance?
Yes, please.
All right.
Cab Franc. Let's talk about what flavors Cabernet Franc or a good old Cab Franc give us. Strawberry, raspberry. So lighter, more red fruits
Okay.
in general, not
Mhm.
exclusively.
Mhm.
Down in South America and a little bit here,
Mhm.
over in New World, you get a little more black cherry folded in. Right.
Okay, so but those red fruits, those include like that cranberry taste that we were talking about?
Yes,
Okay.
right. So
All right.
they're not going to cover all of them on there.
Mhm.
Yes,
Right.
more red fruit dominant. You can get black fruit depending on how ripe the grapes get. Bell pepper and peppercorn to me go back and forth along with the chili pepper quality in there. They all play together.
Okay.
Crushed gravel, so you can get a real graphite quality in here.
Mhm.
And a nice mineral content, which I've had this opened a little bit more, and I did feel like this kind of a bit of the pencil lead graphite comes
Mhm.
out as a base.
Yeah, I could say that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Base minerals
Mhm.
in the tasting. Is it dry? Yes. All right, it's not a sweet wine. Medium bodied, yes. Medium high tannin, yes. In this case, it's call it medium. It's for them, it's medium plus,
Okay.
because you can get a lot less.
Mhm.
For what we tend to drink, it's just medium.
Yeah, I feel like the tannins are not as prickly anymore, like they're less sharp. They've rounded
I
out.
agree, but they're still nice and drying across the
Mhm.
palate. They'd
Yeah.
be good with pork and that kind of a thing.
Mhm.
Medium high acidity, yes, it tends to be a little higher acid red. And then you see the ABV where we're thinking reds in general,
Right.
right? But reds in general go all the way up to 16%
Mhm.
if you're going with an Australian Shiraz.
Yeah.
But for Cab Franc, we're actually in the upper side of it at 13%.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there we go. Cab Franc is its own thing. It's an old grape. It tends to have these other qualities that come out and
Mhm.
adds a lot of character. It can be a love-hate grape, right? It's got really beautiful fruit, but if you're not into those the herb flavors and the peppery flavors, and you don't have to be a wine lover, you can like what you like,
Right.
but Cab Franc can be a little bit of a love, take it or leave it grape.
Okay.
All right, let's go ahead to the next one, please. All right, regions where it's grown. Dominantly France. So in France, dominantly Bordeaux, as a blending grape, right? So they use it to give it character, to give character and acid to their red blends. But then the Loire Valley, which is north of Bordeaux, uses it. They have an area where they grow just Cab Franc, very cool Cab Franc,
Mhm.
which is really roses and green pepper and peppercorn. It's very, like they call them tertiary flavors. Like it's the secondary flavors driven kind of
Okay.
wine, and very much strawberries and cranberries
Mhm.
on there. So that one is very specific. This one is definitely a little bit more of a balance between the old world French and the new world expression of Cabernet
Okay.
Franc. So you see, Italy, they grow a lot of it there, especially as blends. So once again, it's used in blending
Okay.
in Italy,
Mhm.
and then the United States. So number three,
So yeah, this is more of the kind of pie chart that we're used to seeing. Like
right?
last week, it was evenly spaced.
Mhm.
I don't remember what we were, or maybe it wasn't last week. One of the
That was
ones
Cabernet
basically.
Sauvignon.
Okay.
Yeah, and
That
which
was,
is
yeah,
it's
everyone,
just grown everywhere.
everywhere. Mhm. Yeah,
Right.
fairly evenly everywhere.
Right.
Like here, overwhelmingly France.
Right. Yeah, just France and then everyone else, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
So
France is like at 68%, something like that.
Yeah.
Would
So-
you like for me to move on?
yes, please. All right. So Cab Franc, the Mac Daddy of current wine production, wine grapes that are in vogue. So we have Cab Franc at the top, right?
Mhm.
Cab Franc created Merlot, Carmenere, Cabernet Sauvignon, and then the other one just obscure. So let's not even think about that. But you between Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and Carmenere, you're talking about a tremendous proportion of current red grape usage in the world.
Yeah.
And they all come back to Cab Franc working with other grapes.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting because Carmenere is a production a combination of Cab Franc and Gros Cabernet, so it's 2 red grapes, right?
Mhm.
And then Merlot is 2 red grapes, but Cabernet Sauvignon, the most robust,
Yeah, the boldest.
biggest, boldest
Mhm.
is a combination of the red grape Cabernet Franc
Right.
and the white grape Sauvignon Blanc.
No, what it reminds me of, which this has been like in the back of my mind every time we've talked about this, but it reminds me of Ligers, the tiger
Mm.
lion. They're bigger than both of them.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though, yeah, you would think, okay, well, it would be about maybe even with the largest or in between the two,
Right.
but instead it's the largest cat.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing, and I think where this came from is, and we'll talk about, we have grape anatomy coming
Mhm.
up, right? Cabernet Franc is fairly thin-skinned for a red.
Okay.
Sauvignon Blanc is thick-skinned for a white.
Okay.
So it took the thickness of skin and the flavors of the Cab Franc,
Mhm.
and I think that's where the Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah,
together.
except that it like magnified the flavors of the,
Yeah.
because it made everything bolder than
Right.
the
Well,
red grape.
don't forget, in a red grape, a
Mhm.
lot of the flavors, the boldness and the
Oh, the
tannins
skin.
come from the skin.
Right,
So the
okay.
thickening of the skin from the Sauvignon Blanc
Mhm.
was tremendous.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
And are these all red skin, white
Yes.
flesh? Okay.
Yes, they're all red-skinned, white flesh grapes.
Okay.
Yeah, none of them became the very rare, which is only 2 or 3 in the world, red-skinned, red flesh grape.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
like, yeah, anyway, let's,
Like the one we had
the one we had,
like
yes.
2 months ago.
I know,
Mhm.
I'm blanking on the name right now, so.
I'm not going
It's,
to.
and I love
remember.
saying the name, so. So anyway, so where does this come from? So Southwest France, the origin is near Bordeaux.
Okay.
And then they began utilizing it. Remember I said the Loire Valley north of Bordeaux is where they do some single varietal
Mhm.
Cab Franc. That's up here
Okay.
in the Loire Valley. But the dominant usage is down here as a blending grape. All right, so here's the grape anatomy. So like I was saying, this guy tends to be a little thinner skinned for a red grape,
Mhm.
but it has wonderful intensity and character in that skin. But so you have a thinner skin red grape. What that kind of means, like Pinot Noir is the similar issue. It needs longer time on the vine
Mhm.
to gain character and ripeness. It's a long ripening. It needs a stable environment for a very long season in order to be grown well.
So, with these thinner skinned grapes, because you've got a thinner membrane,
Mhm.
do they reflect the terroir more than a thick skinned grape? Or
Ye-
does it make no difference? It's just.
No, they definitely do.
Okay.
And that is, I think it brings in the character kind of a little further into the grape.
Okay.
But I think the main thing it doesn't do is impose its own flavors so intensely
Mhm.
that it covers them up.
Oh, okay.
So Cabernet Sauvignon with a thicker skin
Mhm.
can still be grown to show the wonderful character of where it's being grown, but it can also be grown to dominate it completely,
Okay.
depending on how you do it.
Okay.
But that isn't so much happening with Pinot Noir or Cabernet Franc.
Ooh.
And so they're more technically elegant grapes.
Even though evidently the world all likes cab better.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's not even close.
Have we had a graph like that before to see, like, maybe we have, but like how popular each grape is?
I
And-
think I did a while ago.
It'd be interesting too to see one that is a single varietal, how popular they are, because a lot of them, like, okay, they're used in a lot of things, so it's like a false positive type thing. It's bumped up,
Mhm.
but it's a blending grape, so
Right.
yeah. But that'd be interesting to see.
Well, you're right. If you were to look at single varietal,
Mhm.
not just worldwide growth,
Right.
because everyone I've seen is how much is grown,
Right.
and they'll compare it all.
Mhm.
But you're right, Cab Franc as a single varietal available wine would
It's
be
gonna be much
way
lower.
down. I mean,
Yeah.
it'd be crazy low.
Mhm.
But what I also like to do, and I've brought up this before, is I like to take grapes. I really like taking grapes that are used in blending and pulling them apart so we can begin tasting them and get to know that grape, so you know what
Sure.
it's adding to the mix.
Yeah.
And so that's why I want you guys to be able to do what I do, what Jake does, what Mike does at the store when we're tasting, and we'll get a red blend and we'll say, oh, that Cab Franc jumps right out of the glass. I get why they put 8% Cab Franc in here, because it was for the aromatics.
Okay.
And they'll do that, you know, Petit Verdot, that kind of a thing. And so when you get to know the grapes, if you desire, and otherwise you can just drink it and say, I like this or I don't. But I love doing that, you know, and pulling out that extra facet of my enjoyment. So, all right, next one, please. All right, so where in the world, let's see here. Actually,
You want me to stop the share a moment?
no, let me make sure I covered everything. All right, cool. Just wanted to make sure. I actually know this content so well. I just blasted through all my notes and didn't even look at them. And I didn't trust myself
Okay.
on it. So where in the world are we? This is going to be kind of fun. So we're in the United States. We're in right about the middle, right up here. So we're just about the middle of the growing latitude that runs through the US. We're just on the eastern side instead of on the western
Yeah,
side.
we've never been there before.
Right. So here we are. It's this area right. No, it's right here. Here we are over in New York, in the Finger Lakes, coming off the Great Lakes. So here they are. So within the Finger Lakes growing region, we have the Seneca Lake sub-AVA, and that's where we are tonight.
They have to, this is a stupid question. They have to apply to be an AVA.
That's right. Yes. The
Okay.
winemakers all have to get together. They
Mhm.
apply.
Mhm.
They explain why their area is creating specifically different wine that you could drink and say this has characteristics that is unlike other areas. And so these guys both applied to say, well, ours create X flavors versus slightly different. They're going to be very close. So, but slightly different characteristics over here.
Okay, can you go back a slide a moment, because we have some questions about, that Ohio has like quite a bit of US vineyards. So they want to know, is it because of elevation? Do you know?
I don't know a lot about what they're doing in Ohio, but I do know this much about these regions. And actually, it used to be all of these regions. Now New York is beginning to differentiate itself.
Okay.
All right. But actually so is New Jersey. But traditionally, these guys were all growing indigenous US grapes.
Okay.
They were all sweet white wine.
Okay.
They were all very low alcohol.
Okay.
They've been changing over the last years and then replanting. It's actually part of the story of what we're going to go through tonight.
Okay.
So now we're getting some Vintus vinifera, which is the wine making grape, which comes in all of, that is the base genus for all of the different wine grapes that we get. There is, like, for example, there's a grape grown up here called Niagara. It's a sweet white grape wine. It's low alcohol, it's sweet. It's an indigenous one.
Right.
It is what it is. So, but anyway, but it's not one of the traditional ones that doesn't get the higher alcohol. It doesn't get the different character. It's, I've had some.
You're not a fan, evidently.
I tasted a sparkling wine made with it.
You did not like it.
Well, it smelled like feet. So
Oh, that's the one that smelled like feet.
it did.
Okay. I don't know.
I'm not saying they all do, but the one that I got to
Yeah.
taste,
It smelled like feet.
yeah. It was supposed to be a mimosa in a can.
It was not,
Yeah.
evidently.
Well, if the can is defined as a public bathroom and the mimosa is being served there, that's what it was like.
I'm not a fan of that. I'll skip that one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So anyway,
So, but
so that is the answer. They're usually growing indigenous white
Mhm.
grapes that are sweet.
so, but if New York and New Jersey are changing over,
Right.
then it seems to me like they may influence these other
Yes.
vineyards.
If
Yeah.
they can, then I'm assuming they will, because they will make a lot more money. So
Sure.
it just makes sense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, New York, New Jersey, North Carolina, I'm sure Virginia, even though I haven't had anything from there. I know that these areas are all beginning to elevate their game.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, even Georgia up in the mountain areas, they're starting to grow some much better,
Hmm.
but much better wine. We've had Tanat from Georgia,
Oh,
which
right.
thank you very much again for
Mhm.
the gift. That was fun.
Mhm.
And yeah, they're really elevating their game. I can see Tennessee getting some of this done because of the elevation.
Sure.
So yeah, there's going to be a lot more of interest coming from the eastern side of the US, I think. All right, so the Finger Lakes, and we talked about Seneca Lake is where we are.
Mhm.
The Finger Lakes, they are largely based. One of the things that helps them, why along the Finger Lakes as opposed to say maybe it would be along a mountain here, right?
Mhm.
The lakes affect the growing regions. So the Seneca Lake there is 632 feet deep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, these are not
Wow.
delicate little lakes, all right?
Yeah.
These are massive bodies of
That's
water.
crazy.
They just happen to be close to even bigger bodies of water that, the Great
Yeah,
Lakes.
wow.
Yes.
That's a crazy depth.
So because of that, the
Mhm.
lakes help cool things in the summer and they help warm things later into the season in the fall to extend the growing season. So they help moderate the warm summers
Mhm.
and they help to moderate the cooling and delay the cooling in the fall. So they get a long growing season. The average summertime high temp is about 80 degrees. And we've seen like in Spain,
Wouldn't that be nice?
yeah, right. Oh, I was looking at it today. I was like,
80 degrees, and it probably feels like close to 80 degrees near the lake instead of it's 80 degrees and it feels like 96.
yeah, they'll get like 76 and they might get an 88, but then they get a cloud. And anyway, they fall about 20 degrees at night. So they cool off and they slow down the ripening. Right. So the soil, let's see here. Well, let's go here. So here in Seneca Lake, here's the Hermann J. Wiemer winery right along the edge there.
They had a Dundee like we do in Florida.
Oh yeah.
There's a
Oh, Dundee's the city.
yeah.
That's where I've been looking at the weather. So, and you can see, actually, Chris is about to go up to the Finger Lakes region. Maybe I should, you know what, Chris, come to the store. I'll print this out, and here's a whole list of the wineries you can
Right,
go
there you
visit.
go.
I might have thought of that if I wasn't in the middle. I was still putting my presentation together. I wasn't at my most helpful.
He could also take a screenshot of it too.
No, that's true.
Hey, Who are we crediting with this data?
Wait, say that again?
What's that?
Sorry, Jeff. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
no.
I do have a map.
Oh, good, good.
And I've got all our wineries that we're going to hit, and I've got them mapped up, by area, because you can't cross the middle of the lake. So you kind of have to plan your trip
Oh,
more geographically. You can't just say, I'm going to do all of Seneca one day, because you might have to go all the way either around or up from the bottom.
Oh,
But, yeah.
that makes total sense.
yeah.
Oh, and Chris told me today too, they're
Mhm.
going to be doing a winery tour by boat along the lake.
Oh, that's so cool.
So that's actually on Cayuga, which is the lake to the east
To the
Mhm.
east.
of Seneca. And yeah, it's just a little small boat, holds 6 people, and he'll take us to 3 different wineries by boat. So that's going to be cool.
Yeah,
That-
that's fantastic.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to stow away.
Yeah.
And Brenda was there in 2015.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right. So the Finger Lakes vineyards, here they are. Let me think where it was. Heat in summer, retaining heat in the fall, long growing season, average summer. So the soil has a name is my next one. So we're just going to look at this guy real quick and see, what it looks like going down to the
Mhm.
lakes. And then these,
It's really pretty.
Right.
Like, I mean, not that vineyards aren't normally pretty, they are, but like those little flowers or whatever
Right.
is in between.
that is that's an undergrowth in
Mhm.
order to help control bugs and that kind of a thing.
Okay.
Right. So they'll plant those and it's usually something that will push something away that would cause a problem as far as bug infestations.
Okay.
And trying, it's usually an attempt to keep a little more organic and sustainable.
Okay.
So the soil is Palmyra, or Palmyra. I'm not quite sure.
Is it palm, not palm? Like,
Palmyra. Yeah, you're right.
oh, okay.
So Palmyra is a grayish brown gravel with loam. Loam is a combination of sand, silt, and clay. So I always say there's almost no organic matter in the
Right.
soil when it comes to, because they have the grapes worried about,
They need to struggle.
they need to struggle.
Mhm.
So this actually does have organic matter. This is one of the only areas we've come to that, and that is one of the things that makes it a struggle to grow quality grapes.
So they go and they yell at the grapes every day.
Yes, right. You gotta really terrorize them.
Yeah.
You can't have them feeling too good with all this
Right.
organic matter to work with.
Yeah.
It's not highly organic, but it's much more than most of the areas we're talking about, but it still drains very quickly and it has a
Okay.
high mineral content.
But how does that affect them then? If they're not struggling to get nutrients, how, like,
They do struggle in the form of, with the winemaking.
mhm,
They've got to really work with how they're tending to the grapes, because they get more water and they have more nutrition
yeah.
than most other areas in the world. So you look at it, but this is still not a flabby, ridiculous wine. Like
Right.
they're able to still coax out of them with their vineyard manipulations.
Mm,
They have been working very hard on even like the direction that they plant the vineyards
mhm.
to get more wind off the lakes,
Okay.
to stress the grape
Yeah.
production, to thicken the skins. So they use all kinds of techniques
Mhm.
that are more modern in development. They can't just plant and go, because you'll get a kind of an uninteresting wine.
Mhm.
You actually have to deal with a lot of vineyard management
Mhm.
to really coax out bigger, more robust grapes from this area.
Yeah, it seems like it's a lot more work there than like a lot of places that we've talked about where,
It's a lot more technique.
sure.
Yeah, very scientific driven technique.
Mhm.
Mhm. All right, so here we are, Hermann J. Wiemer Winery. So it looks a lot like that image that we just showed going
Yeah.
down to the lake, right?
Mhm.
So Hermann Wiemer was from Bernkastel, Germany. Comes from a family with 300 years experience in winemaking before moving over
So,
to
but
the
if it's
US.
Germany, it's probably mostly white winemaking, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
A lot of recent, right?
Mhm.
But they work a lot with Pinot
Okay.
Noir, right? So he took a job offer with a winery in New York in the 1960s. And at the time they used all native grapes. And with, speculative success on quality. And he had been, he grew up in Germany with
Right.
good wine.
Right.
And so he kept looking at the area and thinking more could be done. So Hermann believed that he could import good quality grapes, to more traditional European grapes, and have them work in this area. And he then bought 140 acres on the west side of Lake Seneca in 1973. So he began planting vintage vinifera from Europe, whether it was Cab Franc, Riesling, a lot of Riesling, Chardonnay. Riesling and Chardonnay were his first two.
Okay.
Right.
That makes sense.
So he started that, and his first endeavors, he was planting them. He might have been making some wine. He was, checking to see how what the grapes were like.
Mhm.
But mostly he created a nursery to sell those varietals to other winemakers in the US.
Oh, okay.
So he was selling, the grapevines
Right.
and cuttings to other
That
winemakers
was smart. So he
outside
was
the
doing
area.
that before he was making a lot of money.
He
off
was
the wine
making,
itself.
he was really making his money as a nursery
Sure.
before the winemaking
Yeah.
took off. All right. So the current winery was designed, that building back there, in 1982.
Okay.
They've done a lot with Cornell University. It's
Oh,
not
yeah,
that far away.
makes
That
sense.
makes sense, right? And they now produce 12,000 cases a year. So
Oh,
they've really kind of grown into,
yeah. Yeah.
and that's why we can get it in Florida,
Mhm.
and we can get it at a price that isn't crazy ridiculous. So in 2001,
82 was 40 years ago. So
no, it's a long time.
yeah.
In 2001, a gentleman named Fred Merwarth became the apprentice winemaker to the winery. He wanted contacts, as he asked Mr. Wiemer if he knew anyone in Germany. Mr. Wiemer, and I'm drawing a few conclusions, but they seem to allude to this pretty strongly on the website, said, no, I really don't, but you seem like a guy who really knows a lot, and I know a lot from Germany growing up. Why don't you stay with me and be my apprentice?
Okay.
And they said, in the end, actually, he did know a lot of contacts, but he wanted him working with him. It was kind of, and it worked out really well.
A little manipulative there, but it worked out in the end.
In 2003, they eliminated all herbicides and began working toward organic farming, which they have done.
So they have the organic actual certification or?
Well, if they say organic farming, I don't see the seal on here.
Okay,
So I can't say whether that's because New York doesn't have an organic
right.
seal,
Right,
or whether
right.
they just haven't applied for it because of all the hoops they would have to jump through. But that is on their website, that they stopped using the herbicides. They began working on full organic production.
so I think, and it's one of the things that we've mentioned in the past, in order to get that full organic certification, you have to stop selling for a year.
Yes, you have to,
And it is a lot. It's not just like hoops as in paperwork and things you have to do. It's you have to stop making any money off of it.
right, you
for a
have to
year.
skip a vintage.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very difficult for anyone to actually do that, even though they may be using all organic processes.
Right.
But and like you said, you don't know if it's that New York just doesn't have a certification or something.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what's holding them back on that, but I can say that they say that that's what they're working with.
Yeah. Good for
Right.
them.
So in 2007, Hermann officially retired.
Okay.
So Hermann Wiener in 2007 officially
Mhm.
retired, and Fred took over the reins.
Ah,
So now 2021, hence what drew my attention to this winery.
mhm.
Fred Merwarth was awarded the Wine Enthusiast Winemaker of the Year.
Oh, wow.
So we're dealing with the winemaker of the year.
Mhm.
I've been watching this area, like I say, trying to find the wine that I
Yeah.
wanted to share with everybody.
Mhm.
And Wine Enthusiast evidently must have been thinking the same thing, which makes me just as cool as Wine Enthusiast. I think.
I mean,
I
pretty
think the
much,
logic bears
right?
right.
Yeah.
Right. It just. So here we go. This is the tasting room in the winery itself, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's obviously in a barn.
Right. It's in a bigger
Building.
barn.
Yeah.
And they have
Mhm.
and
Well, I was just gonna ask because those giant vats I haven't seen with a textured outside. Is that just design? Or is
Well-
there like a reason for it? Do you know?
I don't know exactly the reason for the texture.
Mhm.
I don't think it's just designed because I know that they've got temperature control built in. It's double walled.
Mm,
And so there may be a reason that has something to do with that.
mm. Yeah, and Kristen Robbins said it looks like a chapel. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. It almost looks like, you could hold, how people have like barn weddings and stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
looks like you could hold weddings in there.
It does.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I bet they do have hold weddings.
They
in there all the
probably do,
time.
actually.
Right. All right. So that brings us to why. Here we go. Hello. Don't be. All right. I thought we'd go through the video they made to celebrate their winemaker.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and then either Jerry or Harriet said I think it's Jerry, very German.
Oh.
That look is a very German look, which makes sense then.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
That was the first one. I said, I can trust you. You move the wine. You clean the tank now. We can move the wine.
When I started with Hermann, it was out of the interest of understanding winemaking and learning winemaking from a master to an apprentice.
What I admire about Fred is his intuition in the vineyards and the cellars. His passion, it engages, it inspires everyone around him.
Why did I choose the Finger Lakes, or why did I decide to stay in the Finger Lakes? It's a remarkable region. It has so much opportunity. There's
Yeah.
diversity here from one plot of land to another, in soils, in mesoclimates, that part continues to be just completely exciting. Riesling being the main variety for the Finger Lakes, it's a variety that's amazingly reflective of its place and can give you angles and complexities that you didn't necessarily know existed on a plot of land. How we farm, how we take care of the land directly impacts everyone here, from myself to my kids, my team in the winery, in the tasting room, especially in the vineyard. Our decisions and our drive to be sustainable, to be biodynamic, is critical for everyone's health and well-being. And that is our number one role here, was to move this ecosystem and our farm in that direction. I've never thought about it with respect to it being about me. It's about the collective that is able to pull together throughout a growing season, through a vintage, and get wines from grape to the bottle, and everyone involved in that process.
All right.
That's cool.
Right.
Hold on, I'm trying to, there we go. That would be the next one. So you want me to stop the share for a moment?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. So we've run
Oh.
through.
And we do have a hand raised.
Okay.
Hey,
Hey.
yeah, I've had my hand raised for. Well, actually, when Harriet was talking about her wine being off, one of the first things I said to Linda was looking at the cork. This is a natural cork, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we've got red stretching about almost to a 1/4 inch of the top, and one of the things that, not necessarily that I learned from you, but as if the red from the wine goes all the way to the top, that's an indication there might be contamination, right?
It has, if it were to be all the way out of the top on top of it and dried, that would be a full failure.
Okay. So I wanted to ask Harriet if she saw her cork.
Now, I saw the cork, but it's not red up the side like you're describing.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it.
Right. Yeah, but and still there is, like I say, with natural cork, there is I've learned from some of the winemakers in Oregon in Willamette Valley, up to 10% of corks can fail on you.
Right.
So there is, like I say, that may have happened. And
Yeah,
it
it's
happens. Surprising
to me that we've talked about that before, that with synthetic corks, that doesn't happen. And with solvent enclosures, that doesn't happen.
Right.
So I'm kind of surprised that more people haven't moved to the synthetic cork rather than the natural corks, because if you're losing 10% of your product every time,
Right.
that's a lot.
No, I get it. I would think as a winemaker, and I'm just thinking as someone who's been involved in marketing in general, right? So you're in the Finger Lakes region.
Mhm.
You're trying to let people know I'm real deal.
Oh,
And there are a lot of people that still have bias against synthetic corks,
mhm.
and they have a bias
Certainly against solvent.
against solvent enclosures, so screw tops, right?
Mhm.
So this wine makes total sense to be a screw top, because I said it should only be 5 to 7 years.
Right.
It does, you don't need a cork.
But if people are biased against,
Right.
the screw top, then mhm.
Yeah, so you've got to do everything you can to ensure them and make them feel comfortable that this is a quality product. So you use real cork.
Right. So when we're talking about, sorry, I reached and got the cork. That's why I was suddenly so close to the camera. So when we're talking about a natural cork, the thing is that because this has been used since the 1200s, before then, something, so that the traditional wines, you're always thinking of, oh, the higher end wines have
Right.
a natural cork, but which isn't necessarily true anymore. But, and then I'm thinking, and you can stop me if this is wrong, but probably the first screw tops were the cheaper wines.
They were, yeah, it started with the cheaper wines.
Yeah.
And so it gave that
impression, which
yeah.
has kind of stuck with people then, oh, if it's screw top, then it's a cheap wine, which is not necessarily.
It's not necessarily so.
Mhm. Right.
Right. So-
Yeah, that makes sense that they would then. Also, the thing I was thinking too is if they are very into, okay, I am a protector of the land and I'm, biodynamic and sustainable and all of this, then going with a natural material kind of makes sense too from a marketing perspective as well too, to go with kind of that all
To
natural.
kind of give the,
thing.
the
Right,
whole,
right.
natural impressions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Mhm.
So, but if they do run the risk of you are going to occasionally have a funky bottle. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I touched the cork and now I have like red on me.
Yes, well, that's going to happen too.
Yeah, there you
So-
go.
So there we go.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so actually I want to talk about this a little bit more. So touching this, it's got those crystals on it
Right.
too. So can you talk about that a moment? Why does it get those crystals?
Those crystals, they're a combination of the acids and things in the wine. They are completely normal. If you ever open up a cork and it has a little sparkly crystal set on the cork,
Which ours does.
that is natural. It is
Mhm.
not a problem. And sometimes they can even be when you pour your last glass and you might get a little sediment that comes out in their
Mhm.
crystals. Once again, not a problem. It's a natural product of wine. So
Hey, Jeff, what about when you look at it, should it have a consistent unbroken red ring around it or?
no, this guy's got, like, if you look at it, which is very normal, you get kind of a clear ring on the outside right now.
Are you looking at the cork or your glass?
Yeah, I think
I was
he
looking at my
talking about the
glass.
cork.
Oh, I meant this. I meant the cork.
The cork, all right, corks are going to be, because it is different, like, let's say we're dealing with natural corks, right? So most of them, you'll have a little bit of red running down the edges, like mine. They run about half an inch down. That's pretty normal.
But not consistently all the way around. It's,
Right.
it varies. As
Right,
we're-
it's not indicative. I mean, Paul's educating me now. So now I'm like looking at this, I'm like, man, maybe that's part of the seal. I don't know, right?
Yeah, so as long as they don't go, and if it runs, like if you were to get a cork that failed physically, rather than having a little bit, corks can fail in a couple of ways. Corks can have a contaminant in them. They're a natural product, right? So they are supposed to sanitize them. A certain percentage fail to be fully sanitized. You stick this on top of your wine and some bacteria that was on the tree, because the cork comes from trees, gets into the wine and causes off flavors. Right? Not poison, but off flavors. Now, the other thing is you can have a cork that fails to meet the physical necessity of what it's in there for. And so they can allow wine when it's laying on its side to slip out and and if it gets all the way to outside and across the top, and then when you take off the foil, if you see dried wine around the outside, that usually, not always, but mostly means you've got a problem there. Now, here's the one that it does not mean. When you crack a cork, that does not mean the wine was bad. Broken corks do not mean a bad cork or a bad wine. They could mean a weak cork. It can be.
It could be user error
But it's
for opening.
mostly people breaking the corks and over muscling it, right?
And I only say that and laugh because there have been many times when Jeff has not been around that I've had to just push the cork into the bottle because I've broken it.
Yeah, it happens. It does.
That's what happens when I have you around to open most of the bottles for me. So yeah.
It's fine. It happens, and once in a while you can even have a weak cork, but like the Creole wines that we had,
Mhm,
they had weak corks,
mhm.
but they weren't leaking.
Oh, right.
So the wine was fine, but all the corks were cracking,
Mhm.
and you had to be super delicate with them. But
Well,
so
I would think too, if you've aged something for, and this isn't true of the Creole, but if you've
Right.
aged something for 25 years, it would seem to me that the cork would be weaker in an older wine.
right, I have found my rule of thumb is 10 years.
Okay,
If it's approaching 10 years, be delicate.
okay. All right.
Yeah. So that's what I've seen time and again. I mean, there are plenty that aren't,
Mhm.
but I would say a full 70% of 10 years need delicacy.
Okay.
So, all right. So let's talk about wine ratings.
Yeah, okay.
Let's talk
That,
about-
that's nobody else knows that tune. That's from the, let's sing about
Let's-
Ashley.
Oh, no, I
Jane.
was doing, let's all go to the,
Oh, let's all go to the movies?
yeah, in the movie theater, when they say,
Oh,
let's go
okay.
get like popcorn and all that,
Oh,
let's all
okay.
go to the,
Okay, I thought you were going, we're gonna sing about Ashley.
no, all right. We ready here?
Let's all go to the lobby and get ourselves a treat.
Thank
That's
you,
it.
that's it.
Yes, thank you.
See?
Yeah, it is from the movies.
And they're so young. All right,
Jen and Jason are younger than we are. They're about the
I thought it
same,
was
right?
Chris that wrote that.
No, I think it was Jen and Jason.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like I say, I'm trying to put on a show. I'm
Chris
not.
and Robin
not
are
Chris
so
great.
much
got that one, but we were singing it.
Oh.
There you go.
Don't encourage him.
Sure. All right, so wine ratings. These ratings are not written in stone, right? They are a combination of, did you enjoy the wine? All right, that's one thing. Is it good for what the wine is? So is this a good Cab Franc? So you have to kind of fold in, is it good for a Cab Franc in case you don't love Cab Franc, but can you appreciate that it was a well-made wine by the winemaker, well grown, right? And then from there, is it good for the region? So you kind of take it down in steps, right? Did I like the wine? Was it delicious to me? Was it good for the grape or grapes, right? And then was it good for the region? And then I would smatter in, was it good for the price?
Okay,
Right.
and so I would say that most of us are not going to know the region.
Sure. Yeah, no. And once again, this is largely a shot in the dark. It's just kind of fun time, right?
Right, right.
For people that are not in it.
Yeah,
I've done enough that I'm beginning to, put my own thing on there.
right. You
but-
have your own ratings. Jeff is toying with putting up his own ratings for each wine as well.
I am,
Yeah.
like, it's my own thing.
Have a JV rating. You
I'm
can't-
going with that.
You can't call it that.
I am going to call it that.
No, you can't call it
We'll tell you afterward.
that.
We'll do a vote. I think I win.
No. Mm-mm.
All right, so bearing that in mind, was this a very good wine with special qualities? 85 to 89. And the other thing is that's weird in the industry, right? They tend toward, if it's a wine that you think is good, if you're like, hey, that's a good wine, the industry tends to call that a 90, which is supposed to be an outstanding wine, and not every 90 is an outstanding wine.
Mhm.
But bearing in mind that they tend to skew high,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you know what? When you're out shopping, what I want you to think about is if you see an 86, don't shy away. That's a very good wine, and you might love that wine.
Mhm.
We did on purpose the 88 point wine.
Yeah, and I think we all rated it higher than 88
Everyone
points,
rated it higher than
actually, yeah.
88 points. They all
Yeah.
thought it was better.
Mhm.
So 80 to 84, a good solid wine. You're not going to see 80 to 84 ratings in the market because people are afraid they won't sell. So they hide it when they get that rating.
Right.
But once again, that would be a good, well-made wine. But outstanding is this, hey, this is giving me something unique.
Mhm.
I feel like I got a good buy for my money and I
Mhm.
enjoyed it. That's a good 90. Like, boom, you put
Right.
it right there with that collection.
I
Oh,
think, yeah, in the industry, if you submit something and you get an 80 to 84, you need to find out why so that you can use that feedback, but you're not going to advertise it.
right.
You're going to use that feedback to make your wine better, but you're not going to advertise that. Mhm.
Yeah. And I've never seen a 75 or 79 actually listed out there.
I'm sure you haven't.
No, but though I have I have consumed 75 to 79s that I thought, thank you, goodbye.
And then you said, I will not purchase these for my store.
I will not purchase those from my store. I
Mhm.
had one that, anyway,
Nope.
nope. All right, so with all of those various caveats or
Yeah.
addendums in mind,
All right.
let's talk about what we think, because that's all we care about.
Yep. Okay.
We're who matters.
So we have Jason and Jen. Okay, J and J doesn't distinguish who is who.
That's the mystery.
One of them said 92, one of them said 89.
So they average to a 90 and a half,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
All right, Jen wants you to guess, Elizabeth.
Oh, okay. Jen a 92 and Jason 89?
That's wrong.
Reverse.
All right. Strike that, reverse it. Like the
So
tr-
do Missy Elliott. flip it and reverse it. And then we get,
I was
yeah.
doing,
Yeah, see, Paul likes that.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, I wasn't reaching back that far.
Yeah, that's-
Okay, and then Linda and Paul both in 88,
Okay.
Jerry in 89. Oh, and Jillian said if you call it a JV rating, she's just gonna steal it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that is fair enough.
We'll tell you his other option in the after party.
That's the one I'm going with.
Yep. So, and then Chris and Robin, 87, did well with food.
right.
Brendan, 86. Harriet, 85 was first thought. That's what she's sticking with.
Mhm.
Okay, opened up a lot over the last hour.
Mhm.
They were much lower at first.
Okay.
And Harriet hasn't changed her mind after trying it later. Jillian said a 90. Okay. 89 in overall
Mhm.
and 91 for the Finger Lakes.
I like that
Okay,
call. Yeah, I
yeah.
like that call.
All right, yeah. The Montreals were 89 overall, but yeah, for the
Right.
91 for the Finger Lakes. So yeah. I would have gone with an 89.
All right.
I like it, but yeah, I would stay in that
Yeah.
the high 80s range. Mhm. Yeah.
I always like the thing where I'm like, I can always decide to just keep quiet or just be like, and the winner is
Yeah.
the Montreals.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, so explain the 91 for the Finger Lakes. What would you?
Right.
why would
So
you say
I
that's-
would say like, look, this is a very nice, well-made Cab Franc. I
Mhm.
like the balance of the kind of the new world fruit with a little bit of the old world character
Mhm,
of all the other flavors.
mhm.
The the herbs, the floral and all that. So I found it very pleasant. Medium bodied. Cab Franc is not my go-to grape, but I do
Oh, right.
enjoy Cab
Mhm.
Franc. But it's one of those that I kind of appreciate. So I'm like, this is an easy 89 to me. That's a well-made, enjoyable wine. It's got the character of Cab Franc appropriately.
Mhm,
And it's not thin.
mhm.
And for the Finger Lakes, it's a step above. In fact, I would say this is the best Finger Lakes I've had so far.
Okay,
So I would put it up into the outstanding with the Finger Lakes. So an 89 with like a 91 caveat.
it's the best I've
was-
had too.
Yeah, right.
It's also the only one that I've had from the Finger Lakes, but
So that's why that is exactly why I would be in the exact same place.
okay.
Yep.
So they win the gold star for this evening.
That's right. Gold star. That's right.
Yeah, I think for me, it sort of fell slightly lower than that because it sort of fell between that like jack of all trades, master of none type of thing, where it was sort of like it sort of scratched the itch of a Cab Franc, but not quite. And it isn't really a new world wine. It sort of kind of falls between them. That I was like, well, if I want a Cab Franc, I would probably if I want a Cab Franc that did what this does, I would probably look at just French. It's interesting and I like it, but it's like I said, it kind of only just scratches that itch rather than being like, oh yeah, that absolutely like did what I would want out of this.
Well,
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
yeah, knowing what I know about your taste, because you're a big Chinon fan, right? So for you, I would expect you to be, I can't remember where you landed, but I would expect you to be 87, 88, right? Because you're so old world minded, and that's
Mhm.
fine. That's exactly where I would expect you guys to land,
Oh yeah, 87.
right?
Yeah.
And then the people that are not as old world minded and they want more fruit,
Mhm.
that's one of those too, where you're like,
Yeah, actually,
okay,
Brian probably really would have liked this one.
right.
Mhm.
So, but then again, if you go to South America, you get even bigger fruit, right? And those people would be more like 90, 91 for there. So
Okay.
you end up averaging this guy to that 89 point
Right.
round point, like
Right.
kind of if you have a Venn diagram with the
Mhm.
two. And that's the thing. I think it's cool because it gives you some of both. It's a bridge Cab Franc,
Mhm.
right? And it's really good for this region. So that's, for me, elevates it a little bit.
Sure.
Right? So, and did it show me something unique? Here's my bonus point, everybody. Is this like any other Cab Franc I've had? No, it's not.
Mhm.
It's got new world fruit and old world character together. And I haven't had one of those before.
Mhm.
To me, bonus point.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Yep.
It makes me interested to try the Riesling
Mhm.
because first of all, they mentioned the Riesling
Mhm.
in the video, and also honestly biased, but since it's originally, and I guess he's still involved, a German winemaker, it'd be, yeah. It would be, have you tried the Riesling?
I have.
Okay,
Interesting you bring that up. Okay. So,
Okay.
and Jill brings up, she was saying,
okay.
like, considering it with location
Oh,
in
sure.
mind.
Absolutely.
So kind of like correct in your mind for that, which is kind of, yeah, like I was going, I kind of corrected and like, hey, this is Finger Lakes. So
Right. Well, and she's right, because one of the things that you said was consider where it's from.
right.
Right. Yeah.
All right. But once again, there are no wrong answers. I'm just saying I understand where they're coming from. Like I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there are no wrong answers, because this is all about learning about the wines. I'm glad we tried a New York wine. Oh, I've been wanting to. But sometimes we try something and it's just, not for you. But
Sure.
maybe you learn something about that style.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, sometimes it's a New York state of wine, right? You are welcome.
I blame Jason for
You
that.
are welcome,
Just-
everybody, one and all.
I blame you for not stopping the recording prior.
Okay. Okay, again, the Montreal said they were going to be going up there and they'll try the Riesling.
All
So
right, cool. Well,
So we
let's
need
go to this.
thank our
We need to
sources,
thank our
right?
sources. And then we'll go to next week's wine.
Okay.
All right. So let's thank you to winefolly.com. Always an amazing wine resource. Highly encourage everyone to check it out. 750.com, Wikipedia, Wiemer itself, right? And Zimmerman Mulch for the picture of the dirt.
Oh,
You know what?
okay,
Thank you
great.
very much, guys.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
absolutely. Yeah, I'll put a little PSA in here too. If you use Wikipedia, give them a little bit of money.
Hey, there
You
we
know.
go. Fair enough. We do that.
Okay.
All right. So
We do, because we use them.
what you guys did not know is that
Next week.
next week's wine, this was part one of a two-part series. We're drinking their dry Riesling next
Oh my
week.
gosh, so loud. Okay, that was not planned.
She didn't know.
No.
She did not know.
I never know what's going on here. Ooh, grouper piccata.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So we're drinking their dry Riesling. We're going into summer. We're well into summer. It's Florida.
Well, today is the summer solstice. But,
Right.
mhm.
So dry. It is not sweet. all
Okay.
right? It is a dry, crisp, delightful wine. Yes, I've had it. And I love that everyone was talking about drinking the Riesling. And I was over here, going, yes, fall into my trap. Yes. All right. So we're coming back to try it. I was like, look, if we're here, we're exploring this winery. He's the winemaker of the year for Wine Enthusiast. And it would be crazy. I went with red because people like red so much, but we would be crazy to leave without trying their dry Riesling.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
have a regular Riesling, a sweeter one too, but
That is exactly what I asked for. So
yeah. I know. When you said that, I was like,
even though white is not my thing, but I did say I was curious to try it, and I'm very glad it's a dry Riesling. Yes.
I had a feeling that
Yes,
would be
thank you.
that would be the impression. So hope you guys to join us next week. Dry Riesling, refreshing, crisp, and those are the pairings. So, and well, you guys have,
Yeah, no, it's a perfect summer thing.
it is.
Yeah.
So I hope you will join us again, unless you're actually at the winery, like some of us might be.
We'll all
And
be very jealous.
that's right. Until then, thank you for joining me and us this week with the Cabernet Franc for all the fun. Let's toast it out and then we'll stop the recording and 4-letter words begin.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.